As dusk settles on top of this 700-foot building in the middle of Manhattan, Zach Giles seems a little like the Robin Hood of the internet, except he's not stealing. Those antennas he's adjusting on that creaky ladder belong to NYCMesh, a community of internet outsiders who are on a mission.
The internet doesn't really cost you anything, it's just a connection. So however you can get plugged in, then you're on the internet. Nobody owns the internet. There's no one to pay.
Those antennas are plugged into this data center, the doorway to the internet. It's called a supernode. Zach says it costs about $1,000 a month to plug in, and they then share that free internet with their users. Do you think most people understand, the difference between an ISP and going straight to the internet?
I wish they would, but I think most people just understand whether Netflix is fast or not.
It's an underground movement taking on big internet. By day and closer to the ground, NYCMesh volunteer Jason Howard is helping spread that network.
Would you mind letting Brian know that it's hooked up?
This team is building a mesh network. Let's break this down. Picture a spider web of wireless connections. The signal from the supernode travels more than 3 kilometers, and a mesh of antennas spread out on rooftops or balconies receive that signal. Then, using Wi-Fi, other antennas repeat the signal. Each supernode could connect thousands of users.
So if you have the internet coming in at one point...
Science and tech writer Kaylee Rogers says it requires a shift in how we see the internet.
We are so used to the internet being this other thing. It's run by private businesses, but there's no reason why it has to be. That the core infrastructure that rigs up the whole planet with internet, anyone can connect to if you have the money and you can find the bandwidth and you can get on. And so the privacy thing, when you're building your own community-based network, you can sort of write in whatever you want into the terms of service, into how it's being used, into the rules, and people can decide for themselves, okay, we don't want all our data being tracked, we don't want our browser history being recorded, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas with an ISP, you don't really have a choice. They decide that, and then you pay them your monthly bill. Before we decided to wire the whole building.
At this production office in Brooklyn, a major internet provider wanted to charge $80,000 to wire the building. NYCMesh will connect them for only $200 per office.
Since you're not connected to it.
The volunteer network, by checking signal strength and configuring access points, gets systems connected.
I want to participate and put my efforts into helping a free internet, where people get access, not free as money, but free as in free access.
You're basically cutting out the middleman, aren't you?
Yeah.
How far do you see this going?
I think the general idea is, I think if we hit 15 supernodes, we'll cover most of New York City.
And those supernodes, monster antennas that send out an internet signal, the more supernodes, the bigger the network. Brian Hall organizes most of the installations.
We don't really install if it's less than 30 megabits.
And when you put that in everyday terms...
Well, you only need 5 megabits per second to watch Netflix at normal resolution. So 20 people can watch Netflix at the same time.
Since 2013, NYCMesh has installed 154 antennas around New York, and that number is growing. When net neutrality laws and access to a free internet came into question last December, interest spiked dramatically. Their waitlist went from 500 requests for installation last year to over 1,300 already this year. The ask is a $20 a month donation per member, and they now make enough in donations to cover operating costs. Jessica Marshall is the latest NYCMesh enthusiast.
I think it's exciting to be able to get to know your neighbor and share internet that way, and just remember that you don't need to rely on this nebulous entity that's elsewhere. That you can build your own internet, that you can have control over it.
A big draw. NYCMesh won't monitor, track, or store personal information, unlike other providers that scrape and sell data.
This is the moment that internet will come to the building.
All right, so let's go inside and see if they have the internet. All right, so Alex, you online?
I am.
Looks like it's working.
Great, definitely working.
But there's more to this than privacy and anti-corporate internet.
So this is an ideal location for us to put our same antennae on these buildings.
Clayton Banks' network, Silicon Harlem, is using community internet to bridge the digital divide. 40% of people here can't afford to get online.
I had a 15-year-old young person come to me and say, I don't have a computer at home and we don't have broadband at home. So I have to go to libraries and Starbucks to get stuff done. I'm falling behind because those who have those things, right, they're no smarter, but they just have the tools to get it done. So that's why this is so vital.
Attendance was sparse at earlier monthly meetups at this bar to talk about the promise of mesh networks. Now, as interest grows, so too does the crowd. And to stay true to their philosophy of a free internet, NYCMesh will need more buy-in if the network is to spread.
If we get more monthly income, we can then pay for more supernodes, and then that will allow more connections to the network.
We've actually heard a lot of stories about people who can't do their homework because they don't have internet, and it's a little bit disappointing. So we're trying to find those areas and service them if possible.
As it keeps growing, the folks behind NYCMesh know there will be challenges as they take on the status quo. How long before they need to start charging more, and how long before the big internet companies take notice? Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.